Well, that's what's so creepy about something like the Espionage Act. If you can't even establish a motive, you can't even explain that you were doing this for the American people, that there's a real precedent that should be set for this kind of thing, especially in regards to what you're being charged with, which has now been determined that you were exposing something that was in fact illegal. And this is it's an incredibly
believe, right?
un-American thing. It's very un-American. It really is.
But this is
it's disturbingly so.
I mean, we see these kind of injustices happening in the United States every day, and it's not about the Espionage Act specifically. I mean, you see it with drug charges, you see it with civil forfeiture, asset forfeiture, where they take an old lady's car because her nephew was selling weed or something like that, and there's no way for her to get it back. Whether we're talking civil, whether we're talking federal, whether we're talking, civil or criminal, whether we're talking federal or state, we see where the system of laws in the United States is letting people down constantly. But the question becomes, how do we fix this? How does that get addressed? And, you can mount a national campaign, you can try to change the law, but as we talked about before, unless you're Jeff Bezos, unless you're Bill Gates, that's very difficult to do. But the governor can pardon people for state crimes. The president can pardon people for federal crimes, but we have not developed a compassionate culture that actually looks at this. Every president has abused their pardon power or their pardon authority to sort of let their cronies off the hook. We've seen it under this president. We've seen it under previous presidents.
Sure.
But it is very difficult to establish an understanding among average people that it's actually okay for presidents to use this power more liberally when particularly we're talking about nonviolent offenses, when we're talking about things that have not, they're not that controversial, but they are being controversialized because of the political atmosphere of partisanship, where everything has to be criticized for political advantage from one side or the other. Everything's become a football.
Well, particularly in your case, when you're talking about polls that show 90% of people support you being pardoned, and this recent ruling that what you exposed was illegal, I wonder how much the president actually knows about your case. Because
yeah. It's a good question.
He's famous for barely paying attention in briefings, and I can't imagine that in 2013 this was fully on his radar, where he investigated it and read all the documents and really got deep into it. I can't imagine he really knows everything that went down. I bet he hasn't seen Citizen 4. I bet
Sure.
I really, you know what I mean?
Call him and tell him to watch
I bet. Listen, if I had his number, I really would. And I do know people who know him, and I am going to communicate that after this conversation. I literally think that would win him a tremendous amount of political favor. I really do. I think particularly at this point in time where people are really, if there's ever a time where people are fed up about the overreaching power of government, it's during this pandemic lockdown. For good or for bad, whether it's incorrect or incorrect. People are very frustrated right now with power. They're very frustrated right now with the draconian measures that some states have put in place to keep people from working and in their eyes, keep people safe. And all this would contribute to the motivation to pardon you, because I think that it would show people that the president actually does agree that there have been some overreaches. And in your case, not just an overreach, but a miscarriage of justice, a disgusting, un-American overreach.